Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Crypto Insider channel. It's February 15th, 2020. We are in the wild and wonderful city of Austin, Texas, making another cryptocurrency video regarding the space, which looks like it took a bit of a pullback. Looks like Bitcoin dropped under that magic 10,000 number, so we'll see what's going on there. We got a few stories to cover today, nothing too major, and then I guess we'll just wing it on our In the Weeds discussion. I got a few questions and comments over the week, and I guess we'll just talk about those instead of me trying to find some weird financial concept for everyone. Let's jump right in. Oh, wait, I forgot the whole charity thing. I cover it every day because, there could be new people watching that are wondering what I'm showing on the screen. Very quickly, we donate to At Good Souls Group for each new subscriber to the channel. They break it down amongst 9 different charities. They're all fairly worthy, in my opinion. And when we get new subscribers, they get money. It's a win-win for us and for them. We like helping them out, and we've had established a pretty good relationship with some of them since we've started the channel. We've only been going for really, I think this is our 2-month anniversary. We started in December. January, February, we're up to 1,250 subscribers, so it's working. I mean, when you listen to some of the established folks in the YouTube space that have many more subscribers than I do, a lot of them talk about going a year or 2 years with 100 subscribers, and we're up to 1,250 in 2 months. So I am rather pleased with the channel. I think we're doing well, and so some days are slower, some days are faster. It all depends. It's a very odd. I don't know how YouTube decides which videos to promote and which videos not to promote. You never know when some video that you don't think much of is going to take off and get you a bunch of thousands of views, and other ones just sort of stagnate. So who knows? We just keep making them, putting them out there into the ethos, popping them onto the XRP videos playlist, and hopefully that's good enough for y'all. Let's jump right into the prices here at Live Coin Watch. Bitcoin dominance is at 62.17%, so still about where it was yesterday. We like seeing that number drop because we believe dropping far enough will spring an alt season, or at least make the temperature very, very right for an alt season. So we've got Bitcoin dropping down beneath that $10,000 limit. Ethereum's down just about the whole market's down. XRP taking a 3.35% hit since yesterday. We'll see if this turns around. It's the weekend. Things happen. EOS has taken a big hit, 11%. My Tezos has taken a pretty good hit of 10%. And that's looks like a common theme, 6 to 10%. Some being slightly over. Ethereum Classic really took a nosedive. So the whole market's down. It's nothing particularly indicative or systemic to do with XRP itself. Bitcoin is the rising tide that lifts all the prices, and when that tide goes out, it leaves all the boats, land-bound on the shores. We'll see if it comes back. I'm sure it will. These sort of bullish areas that we get into, they never go straight to the top. It's always a big pump, a pullback, another big pump, a pullback. It comes in waves. It comes in waves. The market cycles. You can understand more about market styles by and the market styles based on psychological human buying and selling habits. If you want to read about Elliott wave theory or just the psychological nature of investing, and I'm not going to get too much into that today, but it's out there if you want to see why the markets go in waves or try to understand that a little better. The story from Cointelegraph.com by Adrian Smudzinski. Smudzinski? That is quite a name, Adrian. Bangladesh bank with $4 billion in assets now employs RippleNet. Bangladesh-based Bank Asia has joined Ripple's RippleNet blockchain-based financial services network. And a Twitter user pointed out that the Bank Asia logo in an official Ripple document on February 10th. Still, the partnership must be well over a month old, given that the document in question was published in December 2019. So it's something that a lot of us missed. I really don't look for new Ripple partners that much until they actually make an announcement because of this statement right here. Ripple did not immediately provide answers to Cointelegraph's questions on whether the bank is expected to employ XRP in any way. So if they're just using Ripple's other solution, which is probably just a payment or messaging solution, I don't know the difference between what they used to call them XCurrent and XRapid. Now it's just ODL, I think. But if they're not using XRP, then it's really not. It really doesn't behoove us here at the Crypto Insider channel to talk about it much. I mean, it's interesting to know if they assign someone, and maybe they will be able to switch those people over to the ODL, the XRP exchange solution. But, Ripple has, I want to say, 300 to 400 customers using RippleNet, and to talk about all of them on this channel would just be overkill. 1 second, I'm taking a swig of coffee. Ooh, right in your ear. Sorry about that. Hey, it's early. It's Saturday morning and it's early. I thought this story was nice from Daily Hodl staff. Ripple becomes second largest fintech firm in the U.S. Sold $500 million in XRP to fund crypto startups. The blockchain-focused remittance company Ripple has earned the number 2 spot on a new list of the most valuable companies in fintech. Was valued at $10 billion after raising $200 million in their Series C funding in December, which we covered. The 10 biggest fintech companies in America 2020, according to Forbes, which places Ripple in second place, just behind the payment processing giant Stripe, and ahead of Coinbase, valued at $8.1 billion. Yeah, million. You couldn't even get honorable mention on the list for 8.1 million. Last year, the company sold $500 million worth of XRP, and according to Forbes, used the proceeds to invest in blockchain and cryptocurrency startups. Ripple announced that it had reached that figure of $500 million in total investments through its fundraising arm, Xspring. And then they list the quarterly sales of XRP. Down to 13.08 million in the last quarter, so that's a pretty big dip. We'll see what they do this year. Maybe it's more. Maybe it behooves them more for some reason to sell the most XRP in quarter 2, or maybe they did it for a specific reason. I don't know. With over-the-counter sales stopping, this number should probably not get back to 250 million again, but we'll see. But that's a precipitous drop in sales. My guess, even this 13.08 million is probably them just giving feeder amounts to new clients on the ODL solution, or selling it to them cheaply just to get them implemented and then on their way. But I don't know that. Maybe it's. I have no idea what they're giving to. I don't really feel that it's worthwhile to look in why Ripple sold 13 million in quarter 4 of their XRP supply. So, our in the weeds discussion today. I got a few questions over the past week, and so. Some of them are technical about the channel, some are about me personally and my job, so I'll go into some of that. And if you're done hearing about XRP and you really don't care about that sort of thing, feel free to drop out. I won't bore you to tears with it. But thanks for stopping by, and feel free to hang on if you want to. The first question I got was from a guy named Greg, and it was over a DM in Twitter, And Greg asked me if I would consider doing a live stream. And so far, I have not really given it much thought because technically I don't know how you do it through OBS. It's probably pretty simple. I probably could do it, but with the amount of subscribers that I have, 1250, Greg, you have to appreciate that they're not all watching these videos at the same time. There might be, somebody watches them in the middle of the night, somebody listens to them on their way to work, somebody, so if I just went live right now, I'd probably get 10 people, in a room, and I don't think that would be very exciting for most people. If the audience ever gets a little bigger and they think live streaming, or, people are asking me to live stream, I definitely will consider it at that point. I thought about doing it a little bit with these sort of Saturday videos like this where we get off into the weeds. That way people can ask questions. And I can sort of, be a little more interactive than I am with the audience. So hopefully that answers your question, Greg. The second one was from Maz, who said, can you prove that you've worked in the fintech industry? And I guess that's possible. Maz, it's a very weird area for me because cryptocurrency is my hobby, and I like to keep it separate from my job. So to me, it's like, I don't know. Let's say your hobby is stamp collecting. Hopefully it's not, because it seems like the most boring hobby. But when I'm making these videos, it would be like I'm out stamp collecting, and it really has nothing to do with my job. And secondly, the nature of the internet is such that if I start, I don't want to start obviously posting my my W-2s or tax returns around the interwebs. And three, people are really crappy on the internet. We all know this. Twitter brings out the worst in people. It's very toxic. Facebook can do it as well. So if I just blindly start posting who I work for and what I do, the second somebody doesn't like a video or I say something out of place, they're going to be crusading right to my employer. And that's sort of why I'm hesitant to speak about where I work and who I work for. But I can describe some of the things I do and some of the clients I've worked for in the past, especially some of the ones that and let's say the fourth reason is I'm under a confidentiality agreement. I can't just talk about anything that I want to on YouTube without fear of losing my job. So there's that. But let me first, so I'll talk about my working career, and I want to touch on some other things briefly. But I had every kind of dumb job. When I was going to school when I was about 20 for electrical engineering of all things, and I dropped out because I didn't like it. I was good at it for a while, and then I got a professor that I didn't agree with, and we had some problems, so I dropped out, and I went to work in a bookstore. I worked there briefly for a year, and it was fun, and I became really good friends with the owner. And then I worked in a textile mill after that. I ran their shipping department. I was there about 3 years. Textile mill is a very nice place, or a very nice way I'm describing this. It actually was a lot like a sweatshop that employed older women because there was no other opportunity in the area. This is in Pennsylvania, in a very sort of burned out Rust Belt steel mill town. So I did that until they upset me. And then I had a series of temp jobs, and I drove cabs. I've done every kind of job, anything to make money, because I've always been pretty self-supporting. After that, I got my first sort of white-collar job, and this was at a drug and alcohol testing company. And we're not talking, we didn't do criminal drug and alcohol testing, so it wasn't like the police were bringing people in, but we did transportation or workplace testing for safety sensitive positions. So these are your truck drivers, your pipeline workers, Coast Guard, that sort of thing. And I'm describing this to you because as I got more and more responsibility there, to the point where I was basically running the place single-handedly some days, one of our sort of premium services that we offered clients was in the pipeline industry. And one thing you had to do is there was an auditor, and he worked for all the really big pipeline places like Exxon and Dominion and Equitable and Columbia Gas. He worked for all these places, and his job was to make sure that anybody that worked on gas lines or pipelines owned by his clients were compliant with the drug and alcohol testing regulations. These people would pay for plans at my company to manage everything. We would pull their random tests. We'd show up after an accident. We'd be on call. We'd do follow-up testing with them. And we would compile all the numbers and statistics and policies and submit them to this guy. And he would either approve it or deny it and shut them down. And this guy was not nice. And I came to find out through talking to him later on that he would only accept these submissions of data from 3 people in the country, and I was one of them. That's how strict he was on how everything had to be exact, and if you couldn't live up to that, or he didn't think you could live up to that, he wouldn't even take a submission from you. It would have to come directly from the company or one of their lawyers. So we had a pretty unique service we could offer of being able to be an all-in-one provider. But I only bring this up because it gave me a really good sense of regulation, because I really had to study regulations, US 49 CFR Part 40, and was the regulation that covered everything, and it taught me a lot about compliance and complying with those regulations. And it taught me a lot about computers. So in addition to submitting those statistics, this company was also sending me to school so that I could get very basic computer certifications, A+, Network+, MCSE. I think because I also ran their network. It was a very small business. I think at the height of it, when I was there, employed maybe 15 people. So I did that. I made some various other business decisions there, and I was also a breathalyzer expert. And I mean a breathalyzer expert. When somebody says breathalyzer, there is one company that makes the breathalyzer. That's Draeger Safety. Anything else is not a breathalyzer. But I have gone to several cases to either confirm or blast drug alcohol testing result or breath alcohol testing results. I used to train people how to use the breathalyzer, and I've done probably 10,000 breathalyzer tests on people throughout my career. So it's just an interesting, weird way to start where I was going. In any case, there were some changes at the company structurally, the drug testing company, and I got tired of doing it. I was grossly underpaid, in my opinion, because it was a small business, and small businesses usually underpay. So I had a blow up with them, and then I quit. And for a few months there, I was going around from temp to temp to temp job, and applying, doing what you do when you are one. So I was going around from place to place, and I got a temp job working the customer care support center, they called it, at Sanchez, what was the name of that company? Sanchez Data Systems or Sanchez Computer Associates. And this was my first fintech experience. They made a core banking platform, and they sold it to a bunch of very large companies. I'll talk about some of the ones that are out of business. Not because of our core system, but because of their own mismanagement. One was Lehman Brothers, and another one that we worked with was called Deep Green Financial. Those are 2 that I remember. There's some more very large ones as well, but my job was that people from the bank, not customers, these were mid-management executives or whatever. They would call into the customer care support desk and report problems they were seeing. In addition, other groups around the company would report problems that they were seeing. Your GL's out of balance or this isn't working. We also did a lot of user administration. We're getting this warning or these reports. And what I would do is open a ticket basically in the ticketing system and triage it, send it to the right place. And our job back then was not just take down the information and send it on. It was take down the information, try to get as much more information that you can out of the system regarding it, see if you can figure out the cause of the issue, and then send it on. So I did that, and that's very basic entry-level stuff. I did that for almost a year, and then they decided they would hire me on full-time, and I worked the night shift. It was a pretty cool shift. It was 4 days a week, 10 to 8. And I worked there for a long time, maybe a year in that area. Then they decided that some positions opened up in what they called business analysts. But what they were calling business analysts at that time was really more of an administrative assistant. My position became, I would compile data from reports all around the company into nicer, more consolidated reports, and these executives would use them to do a state of the business address and other monthly and quarterly addresses, and you do slides and PowerPoints and some pretty complicated Excel stuff. But I really wasn't working with the banking platform at that time. I was working more with the output of the core system. Okay, so my next job, I moved again, was becoming an actual business analyst for that core solution, meaning when the clients would report these problems in, they would come to me if it was my client, and that we would try to recreate. I would try to make that problem happen again in sort of a test environment, or what we would call yesterday environment. A yesterday environment was is still just a copy of production that's 1 day old. And it doesn't have any, you can't actually do any banking functions with it in the real world. It's just basically a playground for business analysts and some of the app support and programmers to go in and make changes, see if we can recreate the issues. And that was a good part of my job. Recreating the issues, I got pretty good with a reporting tool that solved more issues than any other tool that I had. Just being able to go in and write little SQLs and things to pull data out of the system to explain what was happening and to match up, impacted populations from various incidents. Now, this is all very boring, but I'm just explaining it because, yes, I have worked in this space. Then I went into something called ancillary support, or vendor support, which is where I still am. So the company that I work for now makes all these core systems as well. But your core banking platform just adds and subtracts, multiplies, and divides, usually. It may do a few other interest accruals and, things like that. But it doesn't always have the telephone banking where you call in the IVR, they call it. And it doesn't always have credit bureaus and OFAC screenings and all these things attached to it. And so now my job is to sort of manage the relationship between the core banks and some of these, what they call vendor or ancillary solutions. So yeah, I've been doing it for a long time. And so far, what I'm hoping will happen is that Ripple will become an ancillary provider to some of our banks. And I know they already have relationships with some of our banks, but we don't manage it. I don't know how that decision is made. But once one of my hopes is that Ripple would become one of our partners, the company I work for. And then I think they're actually a competitor right now. and then I could, work more with ODL and those sort of solutions. But right now, like I said, I think they're a competitor. So who knows? Maybe they'll put us out of business. I don't know. But a lot of people say, "Oh, you don't work in the fintech space. You don't know what you're talking about." Blah 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 blah. Yeah, I've worked in the fintech space for a major player for a long time. 17 years, going on 18. Well, not going on 18. 18 will be in November. But yeah, it's just my sort of journey. I bounce around the company and just do what I do and what they ask me to do. And wow, some of the stories I could tell you about some of those clients, like Lehman Brothers, some of the weird things I would see. Just, and you sort of can tell which clients are going to succeed and which ones aren't. Lehman Brothers had built a whole banking division, or there was a retail banks, like brick and mortar banks, just for their employees. So they would have these brick and mortar banks just sitting there open. You couldn't go in. I couldn't go in. It was just for their employees. So these buildings full of people just sitting there doing absolutely nothing all day except for that one or two customers that would come in. And the problems we would get are weird. I mean, they would just react to things so differently from other banks. I'd say, guess what? Your general ledger is out of balance by $3 million. They'd say, oh, just $3 million today. Well, we'll research that, sometime next quarter. Like, really? Sometime next quarter, somebody could be embezzling. There could be, we're out by $3 million. And they're like, yeah, that's $3 million. That's not worth our time. So, what else? Also, they would let me do things right in production. They would, so back then, if you wanted to fix something in production, you would have to submit it. It would have to get approved. There'd have to be quality assurance testing, and it could take a couple weeks to get some little fix put into production, when it was just really a configuration item, meaning you could just go in and click, if you had access, you could just go in and click the checkbox, save it, and then it was done. You didn't have to go through all that. So one thing their employees, my contacts would do is I would call them and I would say, listen, this problem that you reported to us, it can be fixed real easy by clicking the checkbox. But for me to do it, it's going to take 3 weeks. But if you want to go in and do it, or grant me access, I'll do it. If you want to take that chance of making this change live in your production environment with emergency access, we can do it. And they would. Most of the time, the lady, I think her name was Karen, if I remember right, she would just say, you know what, I'll take care of that. I'm just going to go in right now. Which box is it? All right, I've checked it. Saved. So, yeah, amazing things. And that's not all I've seen from Lehman Brothers. That's just a little taste. I've seen some more crazy stuff. But, yeah, it was no surprise to me when they began their decline. Anyway, I don't know that any of that anecdotal stuff is proof that I work in crypto, and I would prove it. I would show somebody my tax returns if I was going on a show or a podcast or like an off the chain or something like that. Yes, I would show them my pay stub or my tax return, but I'm not going to do it just to do it. If I have a reason to do it, and somebody needs to see it to validate something, yes, but just to randomly start posting tax returns or something like that, I would not, just to satisfy the curiosity of somebody that watches one of my videos. No. If that makes any sense. So hopefully, I'm sure you're bored to tears. If you're not, that's one reason I put it off for so long too. I've been asked this question since I started, and I knew it would just be a boring discussion of the things that I've done, and not really relevant to the space. That's why I'm doing it on a Saturday. If you're new to the channel, on Saturdays we kind of do an off in the weeds discussion about anything. So if you want to talk about your jobs, go ahead and put them in the comments. If you want to talk about any art projects that you're working on, or songs maybe that you have on X Songs, anything like that, we're always happy to hear them. And on Saturdays, I'm happy to get into the weirdness of the space more and of our community more. I'm going to pop up some videos here at the end for you to continue your crypto insider journey. And if you want to click those, that would help. Remember, subscribing helps donate to charity. We'll be back tomorrow probably with another video. Thanks for watching.